Hi guys, so in this video we'll be discussing the effectiveness of fiscal policy, and there are a number of factors which really affect its effectiveness. So the first one is time lag, or rather time lags in this case. So the first order time lag is the recognition lag, and this is when the government recognizes, look, there is a problem in our economy, the aggregate demand is going a bit too high or it's going a bit too low. So there is a certain time lag between the aggregate demand going up and the government recognizing this change in aggregate demand. So this is the first time lag, the recognition lag by the government, and so this lag is only by the government. The second type of lag in this case is the action lag. Now the government knows that the aggregate demand is either going a bit too high or it's going a bit too low, and so the government tries to use some action, use its power to do something about this. And so the government will start making a policy, the government will change its fiscal policy in this case, the government will come up with a document which will be which will be voted on in the parliament or the national assembly, depending on whatever the economy has or the country has. And so the government will really have to make that document and so get it approved through the national assembly or whatever. Well, it depends on the economy or the country itself. And so this has the action lag. The government recognized it first and then the government took some action, and so this is the second type of lag. Then there is another type of lag known as the implementation lag. So let's say the bill gets passed through the Senate or the National Assembly, and now the government has to implement the change. For example, if the government wants to increase government expenditure, right? If the government wants to, let's say, build more infrastructure or hire more people for schools, hospitals, whatever, so there will be some lag. It will take some time to take this money and start spending it to start hiring more people, right? So this time lag in terms of hiring people, planning our projects to really spend the money on, so this will lead to implementation lag. And then lastly, after you start employing more people, you get more people into the workforce, then the last type of lag which really corresponds with this is the effectiveness lag. So it's not like as soon as you start employing more people, the aggregate demand in the economy will go up right away. It will take some time, although not a lot of time, but it will still take some time to change the aggregate demand and to make it go up or make it go down depending on what sort of policy the government realizes, whether the government is choosing to move towards a more expansionary fiscal policy or a more contractionary fiscal policy. So these are the four different time lags which we really have to look at. The first one is recognition lag, recognizing the problem. The second is action lag, taking some action according to the problem or to neutralize the problem. And then implementation lag, to implement the change. And then finally effectiveness lag, which means waiting for the change or the implemented change to really have an effect. Moving on, another limitation of fiscal policy is the crowding out effect. So according to this problem, what happens is when the governments spend more, when the government expenditure is more than the tax revenue, which is well linked to the video we discussed in which we discussed budget. And so in this case, the government's expenditure is more than the tax revenue, and so the government is in a budget deficit, right? To fill this deficit, and so to really fill this deficit or to neutralize this deficit, the government will borrow money. In this case, the government can borrow money from the general public. The government can float bonds in the economy, to get people to buy those bonds, and then the government will pay people interest on those bonds in return for the money which the government gets. So this is kind of the government taking money or loaning money from the people or from the general public. And when this happens, these people, the general public, loan their money or lend their money to the government directly. This money could have potentially been given to firms. And so these firms aren't really happy about this because they feel when the government competes in this market, when the government competes in taking loans, this really pushes up the demand for loans, right? And so this increase in the demand for loans, or this increase in the demand for, well, basically loanable funds, leads to an increase in the price of such funds. So it leads to an increase in the price of such funds, these loanable funds. And these funds are in the form of money, right? These funds are in the form of money because the government wants money, and the firms also want money, obviously. And so in this case, when the demand for such loanable funds go up, and at the same time, well, obviously these loanable funds are in the form of money, so the demand for money goes up. Demand for money goes up. As we have already discussed, the price of money is equal to the interest rate in an economy. Interest rate in economy. And so when the demand for money goes up, well, there is a shortage, and the price mechanism does its work to really push the price up to get rid of the shortage. And so in this case, the interest rates go up too, which discourages private investment. Because, well, we do know aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. And when the interest rates go up, the cost of borrowing goes up, and these guys, the firms who are investing their money, now have to pay back more, or their cost of borrowing goes up. And so, which is why I goes down. This goes down. Investment by the firms go down.